If you scream, my men will think you're a threat. But if you stay very calm, we might save each other tonight. Would you trust the voice of a stranger standing between you and freedom? Nora Hayes has exactly 3 seconds to decide. She's 29 years old, standing in the cold fluorescent wash of Warehouse 7 at Boston Harbor. The container she just opened was supposed to hold printer cartridges, electronics bound for a tech distributor in Cambridge. Instead, she's staring at precision-cut foam, military-grade packaging, and the dull gleam of weapon components nestled in custom molds. Her phone buzzes in her hand, red alert flashing across the screen. Unauthorized cargo detected. Security protocol activated. Behind her, footsteps echo across concrete, deliberate, unhurried, moving closer. Multiple people. She can feel them watching, calculating, deciding. She doesn't turn around. Not yet. Her father taught her never to show fear, even when it's eating you alive from the inside. Then that voice comes again, low and certain, carrying the weight of absolute control. If you scream, my men will think you're a threat. She feels the temperature of the room shift. The air grows heavier, charged with unspoken danger. But if you stay very calm, we might save each other tonight. Now she turns. Vincent Hale, black jacket tailored perfectly to broad shoulders, sharp jawline, eyes like cut glass, dark, penetrating, missing nothing. 3 men flank him in a precise formation, hands resting near their waists where weapons would be concealed. She's heard the name whispered in shipping circles. The man who controls Boston's port, the shadow that legitimate business owners pretend doesn't exist but secretly fear. Nora straightens her spine. Every survival instinct screams run, but she plants her feet on the cold concrete and lifts her chin. This is my company. Nobody uses it without my consent. Vincent studies her with an intensity that feels invasive. He's not sizing her up for weakness the way most men do, not assessing whether she'll break or bend. He's calculating something else entirely. Something that makes her pulse spike even as she forces herself to hold his gaze. Then you just declared a war you didn't start. The words settle between them like ice water down her spine. Her father's company, her legacy, her spotless record that she's fought 3 years to build and protect. None of it was ever really hers. It was already someone else's battlefield. And she just stepped onto it 6 weeks earlier. Nora sits in her corner office at Hayes Freight headquarters, morning light cutting through half-open blinds in sharp golden bars. The city hums 4 stories below, Boston waking up to another Tuesday, indifferent to her private struggle. Her desk is organized chaos, quarterly reports, shipping manifests, 3 cold cups of coffee she forgot to drink. The leather chair still smells faintly of her father's cologne, even though he's been gone 6 months. Mitchell Hayes, dead at 63, massive heart attack while working late at this very desk. Clean autopsy, clean books, clean legacy. The kind of sudden death that people call tragic, but not suspicious, or so she'd thought. She took over as CEO at 28, too young, the board said, too inexperienced. A black woman with an MBA and no shipping background, trying to run a business her father built from nothing. They wanted to sell to a larger firm, take their golden parachutes, and walk away. She refused, fought them, won by a single vote. Now she's been CEO for 18 months, working 16-hour days to prove she belongs in this chair. Revenues up 12%, route efficiency improved. 2 new contracts with major retailers, everything by the book. But 3 months ago, while cleaning out her father's home office, she found something that shattered her understanding of everything: a USB drive, sealed in an envelope, her name written in his familiar handwriting, along with a single line: "Only if something happens to me, take this to the Attorney General, trust no one else." She'd thought he was being paranoid. Mitchell Hayes was careful, methodical, maybe a little too cautious about security. But paranoid, that didn't fit the man who taught her to look for logical solutions, not conspiracies. Until she opened the files. 30 years of falsified shipping manifests, offshore accounts, payments disguised as consulting fees, federal transportation contracts manipulated at the highest levels, all connected to one name that appeared again and again in her father's meticulous documentation: Senator Richard Callaway. Callaway chairs the Senate Transportation Committee, the most powerful position in federal shipping oversight. He controls which ports receive federal funding, which companies get lucrative government contracts, which regulations get enforced, and which get quietly ignored. He's old Boston money, Harvard-educated, connected to every power broker on the eastern seaboard. Untouchable in every way that matters. But according to her father's files, spreadsheets, encrypted emails, photographs, recorded phone conversations, Senator Callaway had spent 3 decades using companies like Hayes Freight to move illegal cargo under the pristine cover of legitimate government transportation contracts. Weapons, technology, components that should never cross civilian borders. All shipped through federal channels with documentation so perfect it could pass any audit. Nora had stared at those files for 3 days before making her decision. She did what her father asked. Contacted the Attorney General's office through an encrypted channel. Met with federal investigators in a secure facility. Testified in a closed hearing that lasted 6 hours. Handed over copies of everything. The investigation launched quietly. No press conferences, no public announcements. Just federal agents asking questions, pulling records, following money trails that disappeared into offshore darkness. Callaway denied everything, called it political persecution, a manufactured scandal by enemies trying to damage his reputation before next year's election. His lawyers threatened lawsuits. His media allies ran sympathetic stories about a dedicated public servant being targeted by baseless accusations. But the investigation continued, and then the threats started. 2 weeks ago, someone tried to break into her apartment at 3 in the morning. Building security scared them off, but they'd already picked the lock. 5 days after that, her car wouldn't start. The mechanic found a neatly severed brake line, clean-cut, deliberate, professional. Yesterday, Lena discovered a GPS tracking device, magnetically attached beneath Nora's desk, military-grade, the kind that costs thousands of dollars and requires technical expertise to deploy. Someone very powerful, very connected, and very motivated wants Nora Hayes silenced, permanently. Lena Moore pokes her head through the office door, 2 coffee cups balanced in one hand. "You look like you slept in that chair. Again." "Close enough." Nora rubs her eyes, trying to focus on the screen in front of her. Lena's been her best friend since their 2nd year at Boston University Law. Sharp, protective, fiercely loyal, and completely unwilling to let Nora self-destruct. Now she's head of legal for Hayes Freight, the only person in the building Nora trusts without reservation. "We've got a problem," Lena says, setting down fresh coffee and sliding a manila folder across the desk. Flagged shipment, container 4779. Came in overnight from a client we've never worked with before. Nora frowns, opening the folder. Who authorized the contract? That's what's strange. It's not a new contract. It's routed through an old dormant account. One your dad created decades ago but never actually used. The account's been sitting inactive in our system since 1995. The unease starts small, just a tightness behind her ribs, a whisper of wrongness she can't quite name. Pull the complete manifest, show me everything. Origin point, routing codes, declared contents, insurance documentation. Lena flips open the folder. Says commercial electronics, computer components for a tech distributor in Cambridge. Standard freight. Should be routine. Then why are you bringing this to me? Because the declared weight doesn't match the actual weight recorded at the port intake. Off by 287 pounds, and because Ethan flagged it in his overnight security scan. Nora closes her laptop with deliberate calm. Get Ethan up here. Now, I want a full diagnostic trace on that container's entire route. Every checkpoint it passed through, every signature on the paperwork, every scan code from point of origin to our warehouse. Ethan Brooks is her CTO, a tech genius who built their proprietary logistics tracking software from scratch. If something's hidden in the data, buried in metadata, or disguised in routing patterns, he'll excavate it. But as Lena leaves, Nora's eyes drift to the framed photograph on her shelf. Her father, smiling, proud, standing in front of the Hayes Freight sign the day they incorporated. The day he told her this company would be her legacy, her future, her proof that hard work and integrity still mattered. She wonders, not for the first time since opening that USB drive, if exposing Senator Calloway was an act of courage or a fatal mistake. If choosing truth over safety was noble or just naive. If her father knew, when he left her those files, that following his path might cost her everything he'd worked to protect. That night, the alert pings her phone at 11:47 p.m. Nora's still at the warehouse district, reviewing quarterly inventory reports in her car because the office felt too exposed, too watched. The dock is mostly empty, except for the overnight security guard making his rounds and the distant sound of container ships moving through the harbor. Her phone lights up. Red priority alert from the tracking system. Container 4779. Unauthorized access detected. Security protocol activated. Your authorization required. She's moving before she finishes reading. Out of the car, across the lot, through the side entrance into Warehouse 7. The security guard waves. He's seen her work late 100 times. Knows she's the kind of CEO who doesn't trust anyone else to handle problems. She approaches Container 4779. Uses her administrative override code. The lock beeps green, and the heavy doors swing wide with a metallic groan. Industrial foam packaging. Layers of it, professionally arranged. She pulls back the first crate's protective covering, and her stomach drops. Not electronics, mechanical components. Compact, precisely engineered, fitted into custom molds. The kind of cargo that requires military specifications and federal permits she knows weren't on the manifest. Her phone buzzes. Unknown number, text message. Step away from the container, now. She spins toward the warehouse entrance, and Vincent Hale walks out of the shadows like he owns the darkness itself. If you're already hooked, go ahead and subscribe, because this story only gets deeper. But if you need to see how this plays out, keep watching. Vincent doesn't waste words or time. You opened something that wasn't meant for you. Nora keeps her voice level despite her racing pulse, despite the adrenaline flooding her system. Then it shouldn't have been placed in my warehouse without authorization. I didn't place it there. That stops her, makes her recalculate. He moves closer, and she notices details she missed in that first moment of shock. His men fan out in a precise tactical formation, but don't advance, trained, professional, waiting for orders. Vincent himself moves with a controlled grace of someone who's survived situations most people don't walk away from. Someone's using your company as a drop point, without my knowledge, without yours. Which means we're both targets. She crosses her arms, a defensive gesture she immediately regrets, because it makes her look uncertain. And I'm supposed to believe the head of Boston's shipping underground just happened to show up at the exact moment I discovered illegal cargo? You're supposed to be smart enough to recognize when we're both being set up by someone who benefits from our destruction. The air shifts. She feels the weight of his accusation settle over her like cold water. Vincent's phone buzzes. He glances at the screen, and something in his expression hardens. Not anger exactly, but the cold calculation of someone reassessing threat levels. We need to leave this location right now. I'm not going anywhere with... Senator Calloway's private security detail left your office building 17 minutes ago. According to my sources, they weren't there for a courtesy visit. They planted surveillance devices in your conference room and your personal office. They also accessed your company's server room. Her blood turns to ice. How do you know that? Because in my world, survival depends on knowing everything before it happens. And right now, Ms. Hayes, you're 3 steps behind the people actively trying to kill you. The words hit like a physical blow. She wants to argue, to deny, to insist this is some kind of manipulation. But the tracking device under her desk, the brake line, the attempted break-in, someone is hunting her. Why would you help me? Her voice comes out harder than she intends. Vincent's eyes hold hers, and for just a moment, she sees something beneath the cold control. Something that looks almost like regret. Because your father called me the night before he died. He said he had information I needed to survive. We were supposed to meet the next morning. He never made it. The warehouse tilts. I think Mitchell Hayes knew too much. I think Senator Calloway couldn't afford to let him talk. And I think that container in your warehouse was the first move in framing you for the exact crimes you reported. Vincent's car waits outside, sleek black sedan, engine running, driver's door already open. He doesn't force her, doesn't touch her, just stands beside the passenger door and waits. Your choice, Ms. Hayes. But if you stay here alone with federal evidence linking you to weapons trafficking, you won't survive until sunrise. Calloway's already built the case against you. He's just waiting for the right moment to spring it. She looks back at the warehouse, at her father's company, at everything she's fought to protect. Then she gets in the car. They drive through empty streets, Vincent's eyes constantly checking mirrors, scanning intersections, reading the city like a tactical map. The silence stretches until Nora breaks it. You knew my father. I knew what he was, CFO of Hale Logistics, back when my family ran operations that weren't entirely legal. Mitchell Hayes kept the books clean enough to survive federal audits while my father built an empire on shipping routes that didn't ask questions. And Senator Calloway was taking bribes from everyone, my family included. He controlled which ports got scrutinized, which companies got federal contracts, which investigations quietly disappeared. Your father's testimony 30 years ago took down my father's operation, but it protected Calloway by eliminating his competition. Nora's chest tightens. My father wouldn't. Your father made an impossible choice. Vincent's voice softens slightly, losing some of its edge. Calloway gave him an ultimatum: testify against my family or watch his daughter get blacklisted from every college, every job opportunity, every chance at a normal future. Mitchell chose you. I don't blame him for that. But you blame him for something. Vincent doesn't answer immediately. They turn onto a ramp leading to an underground parking structure. I blame the system that forces good people into impossible choices. Your father was one of those people. They pull into the garage, concrete pillars casting long shadows under flickering fluorescent lights. Vincent parks in a corner spot, engine still running, ready for immediate escape if needed. We wait here for my contact to confirm. Headlights flood the space. 2 black SUVs roar into the garage from opposite entrances, blocking both exits. Professional coordination, military precision. Vincent's jaw sets. Hold on tight. He slams the transmission into reverse. Tires scream against concrete. Armed figures pour from the SUVs, 6, 8, maybe 10, moving with tactical efficiency. The sharp crack of gunfire echoes off the pillars. Vincent spins the wheel, cutting between 2 support columns with inches to spare. A bullet sparks off the concrete beside Nora's window, and she ducks instinctively, heart hammering. Vincent navigates the garage levels like he's memorized every turn, every ramp, every possible escape route. He takes corners at speeds that should be impossible, the car's tires protesting but holding. One SUV follows, persistent, closing distance. Vincent cuts through a maintenance corridor, barely wide enough for the sedan, and emerges on a lower level. He accelerates toward a service ramp that leads to street level, the pursuing SUV still behind them. They burst onto the street. Vincent cuts through a narrow alley between 2 buildings, loses their tail in a series of quick turns through back streets, and finally stops in a dark lot behind a closed restaurant. Both of them are breathing hard. The car ticks as the engine cools. Are you injured? Vincent's eyes scan her systematically, checking for wounds. She shakes her head, hands trembling despite her best efforts to control them. He shrugs off his jacket to adjust his holster, and that's when she sees them, scars crisscrossing his forearms. Old wounds. Some look surgical, precise. Others look like they came from something brutal and desperate. What happened to you? His expression closes like a door slamming shut. I inherited my father's empire before I was old enough to defend it. These are the receipts from learning that lesson. He restarts the engine, checking mirrors out of habit. There's something you need to understand, Nora. Your father made a choice 30 years ago, a choice that saved your life and destroyed mine. Now we're both living with the consequences of that decision. The only way either of us survives what's coming is if we face it together. I don't understand why you're telling me this. Because truth is the only currency that matters now, and because you deserve to know what your father sacrificed to keep you safe. The next morning, Pier 19 explodes. Nora's in her office, door locked, shades drawn, when the news alert flashes across her screen. Another Hayes freight container detonated at the loading dock. No fatalities, but the entire pier is engulfed in flames. Fire crews battling to contain it. Federal investigators already en route. Lena bursts through the door without knocking, face pale, hands shaking. Nora, this is it. The feds are going to connect this to our company. If they find any link between us and those explosions, they'll find exactly what someone wants them to find. Nora's voice is steady, but inside she's calculating odds, assessing options, realizing how perfectly she's being framed. That explosion wasn't random. It's evidence destruction and narrative control. Someone's eliminating the physical cargo while building a criminal case against Hayes Freight. Then what do we do? Nora's phone rings. Vincent. His voice is calm, matter of fact. Still think you can fight this alone? She closes her eyes, feels the weight of impossible choices pressing down. Her father faced this exact moment 30 years ago. He chose survival. He chose her. Now she has to choose. Tell me where to meet you. My office, 1 hour. Bring everything your father left you. Every file, every document, every piece of evidence. All of it. She ends the call and looks at Lena. I need you to do something for me. Something that might get complicated. How complicated? The kind where you might need to deny knowing what I'm about to do. Lena sits down heavily. Nora, what are you planning? I'm planning to finish what my father started, even if it costs me everything. Vincent's headquarters isn't what Nora expected. She'd imagined something out of a crime movie. Dark warehouse, armed guards, atmosphere heavy with threat. Instead, it's a renovated waterfront building with exposed brick walls, tall windows overlooking the harbor, hardwood floors. More architecture studio than criminal headquarters. The air smells like leather furniture and strong coffee. He's waiting in a glass-walled conference room on the 2nd floor. No bodyguards visible, though she suspects they're nearby. Just Vincent, a laptop, and several decades' worth of shipping records and financial documents spread across a mahogany table. Sit down, Nora. She does, placing her father's leather journal and the backup USB drive on the table. Between them, like peace offerings in a negotiation, neither of them can afford to lose. Vincent picks up the journal, flips through pages slowly, not reading, just confirming something he already knows. His fingers trace the edge of one particular entry, and she sees his jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. You've read all of this, every single word, multiple times. Then you know what your father was to my family. She meets his eyes directly. He was CFO of Hale Logistics 30 years ago. He managed the financial operations of your father's shipping empire. He was the man who kept blood money looking clean enough to pass federal audits. The accountant who made my father's criminal enterprise appear legitimate to banks, regulators, and government oversight committees. He was good at it. Brilliant, actually. That's why my father trusted him more than anyone else in the organization. Vincent sets down the journal with deliberate care. When the FBI started their investigation, and they always eventually start investigating, your father had an impossible choice in front of him. He could stay loyal to my family and risk federal prison, or he could cooperate with the investigation and save himself. He testified. Nora's voice is barely above a whisper. He gave federal prosecutors, just enough to take down my father's key lieutenants while keeping his own involvement minimal. He painted himself as a financial manager who suspected illegal activity but couldn't prove it. He provided evidence that destroyed most of my father's inner circle while protecting himself completely, and he secured immunity for his cooperation. The words land like physical blows. And you? She forces herself to ask the question. Where were you during all of this? Vincent's expression doesn't change, but something in his eyes goes cold and distant. I was 19 years old enough to be charged as an adult under federal law, young enough to still believe that loyalty and honor meant something in this world. I took a plea deal, 2 years in juvenile detention, in exchange for testimony that my father forced me to participate in criminal activities. He stands, walks to the window, stares out at the harbor. My father had a heart attack 6 months into my sentence. The prison doctor said it was natural causes. A man in his 60s with high blood pressure and a lifetime of stress. But prison breaks men in ways that don't show up on autopsy reports. It breaks them from the inside. Nora's throat tightens. By the time I was released, the empire my father built was scattered like ashes. Half his crew was dead or incarcerated. The other half had moved on to other organizations, other cities, other opportunities. I came out with a criminal record, enemies on every side, and exactly $17,000 I'd hidden before my arrest. He turns back to face her. I rebuilt everything from nothing. It took me 12 years. I did things I'm not proud of, made choices that keep me awake some nights. But I built something that survives, that employs people, that protects territory my father would have recognized. Did you hate him? The question escapes before she can stop it. My father? Vincent's quiet for a long moment. When he speaks, his voice is softer than she's heard it. Every single day for the first 5 years. And every day I reminded myself that he made that choice to protect his daughter. To give her a chance at a life that didn't include federal prison or criminal records, or the kind of scars you can't explain in job interviews. He opens the backup drive, pulls up files on his laptop. But here's what you don't know, what your father never told you because he wanted to protect you from the complete truth. The screen fills with scanned documents, yellowed with age, some barely legible, but all bearing official seals and signatures. Senator Calloway didn't just benefit from your father's testimony, he orchestrated it. Calloway was already taking bribes from every major shipping operation on the East Coast, including my father's. But he wanted more than money. He wanted control, complete monopoly over who operated in his territory. Nora leans forward, reading the documents. Your father's testimony eliminated Calloway's biggest competition, my father's network. It cleared the board for Calloway to rebuild the entire system under his direct control. And to make sure your father cooperated, Calloway gave him a very specific ultimatum. Vincent pulls up another document. A college admissions file. Nora's file. Calloway told your father that if he didn't testify exactly the way Calloway wanted, you, Nora Hayes, 17 years old, brilliant student, full scholarship offers to 3 universities, would be flagged as the daughter of a mobster. Your college applications would be rejected. Background checks for any decent job would come back with red flags. Your entire future would be destroyed before it started. The room spins. Your father didn't betray my family out of pure self-preservation. He did it because Calloway threatened to ruin your life if he didn't cooperate. Mitchell Hayes traded my future for yours, and for 29 years you never knew. Nora's hands shake. She presses them flat against the table. But my father's files, the evidence I gave the Attorney General, that exposes Calloway. Because 24 years later, your father realized what he'd actually done. He'd destroyed one criminal empire, only to enable something worse. Calloway spent 2 decades building a network that makes my father's operation look like a corner store. Weapons trafficking disguised as federal transportation contracts. He controlled senators, federal judges, port authorities up and down the coast. Vincent pulls up another set of files, recent ones with dates from just 2 years ago. Your father discovered Calloway was using Hayes Freight, the company Mitchell built legitimately after leaving my father's organization to move illegal cargo. He was being used again, and this time he decided to fight back. He documented everything he could find, but he died before he could finish. And that's not a coincidence. Nora looks up sharply. You think Calloway killed him. I think your father called me the night before he died because he knew he was running out of time. He said he had a name for me, someone inside my organization working with Calloway, someone who'd been there for decades. He said if anything happened to him, I needed to find this person before they destroyed everything. Who? He never got the chance to tell me. He collapsed at his desk the next morning, heart attack, clean autopsy. No evidence of foul play. Vincent's voice drops. But there are ways to induce cardiac events that don't leave traces, especially if you have access to military-grade technology and don't care about collateral damage. That night, Nora goes home to her apartment, double locks the door, checks every window, sets her phone to record any sound above a whisper, and reads her father's journal again. This time with the complete context of what Vincent told her. March 12, 1994, Vincent Sr. wants my signature on the Miami expansion route. It's too exposed, too risky, but I'm in too deep now. I can't walk away without consequences. For me, for my family. June 3, 1995. I met with the federal agent today, Special Agent Morrison. Gave him the New York Ledger like Calloway demanded. Calloway said if I don't cooperate exactly as instructed, Nora's college applications will be flagged. Her background checks will show parental criminal involvement. Everything we've worked for will disappear. God forgive me for what I'm doing. November 18, 1995. Vincent Jr. was sentenced today in federal court. 24 months in juvenile detention. He looked at me across that courtroom and he knew. He understood exactly what I'd done. I saved my daughter's future, but I destroyed an innocent kid's life in the process. Some nights I can't sleep. Some nights I don't think I deserve to. October 2nd, 2019. Found the old Miami route files buried in archived servers I thought were deleted. Calloway's been using Hayes Freight for years. Weapons components disguised as commercial electronics. Federal transportation contracts providing perfect cover. I documented everything I could find, but if I go public now, he'll come for Nora. I need leverage first. I need insurance. I need someone powerful enough to protect her when I'm gone. January 15, 2024, called Vincent Hale tonight, the son of the man I helped destroy. He answered, "We're meeting tomorrow morning. I'm going to tell him everything. Give him the name of the person inside his organization who's been working with Calloway for decades. It's the only way to protect Nora. the only way to make any of this right. The entries end there. Her father died the next morning. Nora sits on her apartment floor, journal open in her lap, and finally understands the weight of impossible choices. Her father wasn't a hero or a villain. He was a man who loved his daughter more than his own integrity, who sacrificed others to save her, who spent decades trying to atone for choices he could never undo. And now she has to decide, does she finish what he started? Or does she walk away and let Calloway win? The next afternoon, Vincent takes her to a tea house in Chinatown. It's tucked down a narrow street, quiet, intimate, the kind of place where conversations disappear into steam rising from porcelain cups. He's already seated when she arrives. "Thank you for coming," she sits across from him. "I didn't think I had a choice." "You always have a choice. That's what makes you different." He opens his laptop, turns the screen toward her. A digital map fills the display, red lines connecting major East Coast ports. This is Calloway's network, 3 primary routes. He taps each location: Port of New York, Chicago Rail Hub, Miami Container Terminal, all legitimate federal contracts, all perfect cover for moving illegal cargo. Nora leans forward, studying the map. He's using government infrastructure to run his operation, which makes him almost impossible to prosecute. Any evidence gets buried under layers of bureaucracy and national security protocols. Then we cut off his supply chain. Vincent looks at her. If we shut down all 3 routes simultaneously, he'll have to reroute his shipments. When he does, we track where the cargo actually goes. We expose the real network. A slow smile crosses Vincent's face. "You think like someone who survives." "I think like someone who has no other option." Later, he drives her to Newton, to a private care facility she'd never find on her own. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere I don't bring people, ever." Inside, the halls are lined with soft lighting and classical music. Vincent stops at a door marked 412, knocks gently, enters. A woman sits by the window, late 60s, silver hair catching afternoon sun, delicate hands folded in her lap. When she sees Vincent, her whole face transforms. "Vincent." "Hi, Mom." Nora's heart squeezes. Vincent gestures toward her. "This is Nora Hayes, Mitchell's daughter." Maria Hale's expression shifts, surprise melting into something warm. "Come here, sweetheart." Nora steps forward, uncertain. Maria takes her hand. Her grip is steady, warm. "Your father was a complicated man, but a good one." "You knew him?" "I knew he made impossible choices. I knew what those choices cost my son." She looks at Vincent. But Vincent doesn't carry grudges like his father did. He carries grief, and he's been alone with it for too long. Vincent's jaw tightens. Maria squeezes Nora's hand. "My son is feared by many people, but he's only lonely to himself." Outside, walking back to the car, Nora says quietly, "Thank you for letting me meet her." She's been in care for 3 years, heart condition. Most days she doesn't recognize visitors, but today was good. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. She taught me the only lesson worth knowing. Power means nothing if you die alone." He stops walking, turns to face her. "I'm not helping you out of obligation to your father. I'm helping you because when I look at you, I see someone willing to fight for what's right, even when it costs everything." Their eyes meet, hold. "You're not what I expected from a mafia boss, and you're exactly what I needed to remember what humanity looks like." They set the trap carefully. Vincent's crew, Ryder, head of security, Cole, intelligence specialist. Jonah, logistics coordinator, identifies a high-value shipment moving through Boston's Lower Wacker warehouse. The same location flagged repeatedly in Mitchell's files. The plan is elegant. Intercept the cargo, identify the buyer, trace the money back to Callaway. But when they arrive just after midnight, the warehouse feels wrong. Too quiet. Too still. Ryder signals his team to spread out. Nora stays close to Vincent, adrenaline sharpening every sense. Then the lights die. Gunfire erupts from 3 directions. Nora drops behind a shipping crate. Vincent pulls her deeper into cover, his body shielding hers from the chaos. Stay low. Who are they? Whoever wants us dead. Ryder's voice crackles through the radio. Boss, we're surrounded. Cole's hit, shoulder wound. He's mobile, but bleeding. Vincent's expression turns to stone. He turns to Nora. Back exit through the loading bay. Go. Not alone. We leave together, or not at all. Their eyes lock. Then he nods. Stay behind me. They move through smoke and confusion, shouting, the acrid burn of gunpowder, shadows moving fast. Jonah takes a hit to the leg but keeps moving. Ryder provides cover fire as they push toward the rear corridor. They're almost clear when a figure steps from the darkness. Garrett Stone, Vincent's senior advisor, 20 years of loyalty, 20 years of trust. He's holding a weapon. Hello, Vincent. Nora's blood freezes. Vincent's voice is dangerously calm. Garrett, you were always too much like your mother, too sentimental, not enough like your father. You orchestrated this. I did what your father should have done decades ago, eliminated the weaknesses. Garrett's smile is cold. Mitchell Hayes, Senator Callaway, all the loose ends that threatened our operation. You killed Mitchell. I ensured he couldn't expose our network, and when his daughter decided to play hero with the Attorney General, I made sure she'd be framed for the very crimes she reported. Nora's voice shakes. You murdered my father. I protected an empire, and now I'm building a new one, without Callaway's oversight, without Vincent's outdated morality, without anyone who remembers the old failures. Garrett raises his weapon. Vincent moves. He tackles Nora sideways as the shot echoes. Ryder bursts through the loading bay door, returning fire. In the chaos and smoke, Garrett vanishes into the warehouse depths. When the noise fades, Vincent helps Nora to her feet. Her hands won't stop shaking. He steadies them with his own. You're not expendable, he says quietly. You never were. She looks up at him. He killed my father. I know, and he's trying to kill us. He won't succeed. We finish this together. The endgame happens at Long Wharf. Night. Fog rolling thick off the harbor. The container terminal is a maze of steel and shadow. Nora's positioned in the control hub, using her administrative access to Hayes Freight's tracking system. Ethan feeds her real-time data through encrypted channels. Container 9921 just moved, southeast quadrant. That's Garrett's shipment. Nora's voice is steady now, focused. Vincent, do you copy? His voice comes through her earpiece, moving into position. Wait for my signal. She watches the monitors as Vincent and Ryder approach from the west. Cole, bandaged but operational, takes elevated position for coverage. Then the trap activates. Garrett's operatives emerge from between container stacks. 8, maybe 10. Vincent's outnumbered. And then Nora sees something that changes everything. Senator Richard Callaway steps from a black sedan, flanked by private security. He's here, in person. Garrett meets him halfway between the containers. Their conversation is brief, heated. Then Calloway's security detail draws weapons, pointing them at Garrett. Nora's breath stops. "Vincent, it's a double cross. Calloway's turning on Garrett." "I see it." Garrett realizes too late. He reaches for his sidearm, but Calloway's men are faster, professional, final. Garrett falls. Calloway stands over him, adjusts his tie like he just finished a business meeting, and turns toward where Vincent is concealed. "Mr. Hale, I know you're watching, and I know you've been very busy investigating matters that don't concern you." Vincent steps into the open, hands visible. "You had Mitchell Hayes killed." "I gave an order. Garrett executed it, quite literally, as it turns out." Calloway's smile is reptilian. "But that's history. What matters now is the future, and the files you possess that could create complications." "You mean evidence proving you've run illegal arms shipments through federal transportation contracts for 30 years. Evidence only matters if someone survives to present it." Vincent's crew moves into position. It's a standoff, Calloway's security versus Vincent's team. Weapons drawn, nobody backing down. Then Nora's voice cuts through Vincent's earpiece. "Trust me, I have a play." Nora overrides the terminal's crane control system. She grabs the controls and swings the massive loading crane across the yard. It crashes down between Vincent's position and Calloway's security detail, creating a barrier, cutting their sightlines, buying precious seconds. Vincent uses the distraction. Ryder disarms the nearest hostile. Cole provides covering fire from elevation. On the monitor, Nora sees Calloway retreating toward his sedan. "North exit, I'm cutting him off." She drops another crane across the access road. The sedan skids to a stop. Calloway exits the vehicle, furious, and that's when the federal raid hits. Sirens, flashing lights, a coordinated multi-agency response. Because 4 hours earlier, Nora had transmitted everything to the Attorney General's office. Her father's complete files, the backup drive, recorded evidence from Garrett's warehouse ambush, shipping manifests, financial records, GPS coordinates for tonight's meeting, and a detailed sworn statement. Federal agents swarm Long Wharf. Calloway's security drops their weapons. The senator himself is surrounded, handcuffed, read his rights while cameras capture every second. Vincent watches from the shadows, then turns and walks back to the control hub. To Nora. She's standing by the window when he enters. "You contacted the feds without telling me." "I did." "You know what that means." "It means justice, the legal kind. The kind that doesn't end with more bodies." She turns to face him. "Your way would have ended in violence. My way ends in accountability." Vincent's quiet for a moment. Then, "You just took down a sitting senator. You'll spend the next year testifying. You'll have a target on your back for the rest of your life." "My father spent 30 years trying to make this right. I wasn't going to let him die for nothing." Vincent crosses the room, cups her face gently. "You're the bravest person I've ever known. Or the most stubborn. Same thing." He kisses her then, soft, certain, like a promise finally kept. When they pull apart, she whispers, "What happens now?" "Now we rebuild. Everything together." 2 weeks later. Nora's office is quiet. Morning light spills across her desk in golden bars. The quarterly report is spotless. Hayes Freight's name has been cleared, fully vindicated by the federal investigation that dismantled Calloway's entire corruption network. Garrett Stone died at Long Wharf. Senator Calloway awaits trial on 17 federal charges. The stories dominated news cycles for days. Lena Knox enters. Someone's here to see you. Vincent Hale stands in her doorway. No entourage, no intimidation, just him holding a folder. She stands. Vincent, Nora. He steps inside. She closes the door. I thought you'd be busy with the transition, she says. I am, but I wanted to give you this first. He places the folder on her desk. Inside, legal transfer documents for a central warehouse, a logistics coordination hub, and controlling interest in what remains of Hale Logistics, now restructured as a legitimate shipping operation. Her breath catches. What is this? Partnership, equal stake, your name alongside mine. Vincent, I can't. Your father gave me a second chance at life, even though it cost me years. You gave me a reason to use that life for something better. He steps closer. This empire only survived because you had the courage to challenge everything it stood for. If you want it, we build something new, legal, ethical, ours. She looks at the documents, then at him. Why are you really doing this? Because I'm tired of building empires people fear. I want to build something people respect. His voice drops. And because when I imagine the future, you're in every part of it. Nora reaches out, takes his hand. I spent my whole life trying to be nothing like my father. But maybe he taught me something inspirational after all, that protecting the people you love is worth any sacrifice. Vincent's expression softens. I don't need your empire, she says, but I want a real partnership, built on honesty, built to last. Then we start there, she smiles, with truth and a very good lawyer. His quiet laugh fills the office like light. 3 months later, Hayes Hale Logistics announces its official merger, legal, transparent, federal oversight. The press calls it an inspirational transformation, proof that even corrupted systems can be rebuilt. The Attorney General holds a press conference. Senator Calloway's indictment includes racketeering, arms trafficking, conspiracy to commit murder, and 18 counts of federal corruption. Mitchell Hayes receives posthumous recognition for his courage in documenting evidence that exposed one of the largest government corruption cases in modern history. Nora stands at the press conference, Vincent beside her. A reporter asks, Ms. Hayes, what's next? She thinks of her father, the impossible choices he made, the price he paid. We're building something my father would be proud of, something that proves you can come from darkness and still choose light. Later, they visit Maria. She's in her room by the window, afternoon sun making her silver hair glow. When she sees them together, her smile is radiant. Look at you two. Vincent sits beside her. Nora takes the chair opposite. We have news, Mom. Maria raises an eyebrow. We're making it official. The company merger. And, he glances at Nora, we're engaged. Nora laughs, holds up her hand. Simple ring, understated, perfect. Maria's eyes fill with tears. Oh, Vincent, she takes both their hands. You've been strong for so long. Now you get to be gentle together. Vincent's voice roughens. I love you, Mom. I know, sweetheart, and I'm so proud of who you've become. That evening, they stand on the rooftop of Hayes Freight headquarters. The city glows below them. Rain threatens in the distance. Do you ever regret walking away from the old empire? Nora asks. Never. Every empire falls. I'd rather build something that endures. She leans into him. He wraps an arm around her shoulders. Your mother asked me something yesterday. She asked if I was ready for the life we're building. What did you tell her? That I'm ready for the man building it with me. Vincent kisses the top of her head. You make me want to be better than I was. You already are. A year later, they marry. Small ceremony, family and close friends. Maria sits in the front row, radiant despite her fragility. Ethan's there, proud. Lena stands as maid of honor, finally convinced this romance is real. Ryder, Cole, and Jonah attend in suits, looking uncomfortable but genuinely happy. When Vincent recites his vows, his voice is steady. Nora, you walked into my world when every instinct should have told you to run. You saw my worst and chose to see my best. You gave me reasons to build instead of destroy. I promise to spend every day earning your trust. Nora's turn. Vincent, you taught me that courage isn't fearlessness. It's choosing love when it terrifies you. You gave me partnership when I expected control. Truth when I expected performance. I choose you every day, every way. They kiss and applause fills the small chapel. Later, Maria pulls Nora aside. Thank you, she says softly. For what? For giving my son a home, not just a place to sleep, a home. Nora's throat tightens. He gave me one too. Maria smiles. Then you're both exactly where you belong. Months pass. Hayes Hale Logistics thrives. It becomes a case study in corporate reform and ethical business practices. Proof that accountability and profit aren't mutually exclusive. Vincent steps away from his old networks completely. Some former associates aren't happy. He doesn't flinch. I'm building something my children won't have to apologize for, he tells Nora one evening. She looks up from her laptop. Children, he grins. Eventually, if you want them. Only if you promise to teach them your mother's wisdom instead of your father's empire. Deal? 2 years later, they stand in a nursery. Soft yellow walls, crib by the window. Outside, snow falls, quiet, clean, transforming the city. Nora holds their daughter, 6 months old, dark curls, chubby cheeks. Vincent stands beside her, one hand on Nora's back, the other gently touching their daughter's tiny fist. Think Daddy's going to spoil you rotten? Nora murmurs. Absolutely, Vincent says. Nora laughs. We're in trouble. The best kind. Their daughter yawns, nestles against Nora's chest. Vincent kisses Nora's temple. Thank you for this, for us, for believing we could be more than our father's mistakes. We already are. Outside, the city hums on, but inside there is warmth, safety, love, messy, earned, motivational in its honesty. The kind of romance that isn't born from perfection, but from two people choosing each other despite their scars. The kind of family built not on empire, but on grace. And as snow covers the streets in quiet white, Nora understands. Some legacies are meant to be rewritten. Some empires are meant to fall. And some love stories, the ones born from truth and forgiveness, are meant to heal everything they touch. Her father fought for justice in the only way he knew. Vincent transformed darkness into light. And she, Nora Hayes Hale, learned that courage wasn't fearlessness. It was choosing love when the whole world told you to walk away. If this story moved you, if it reminded you that broken people can build beautiful things, take a moment to like this video and subscribe. There are more stories waiting for you here. Stories about second chances, moral courage, and love that transforms everything. And maybe they'll remind you It's never too late to choose love over fear. Thank you for being here. See you in the next story.